Welcome everyone to our business webinar program presented by Bank of America. Today's session is Optimize Your Sales System, and we will learn about the information in your customer relationship management or point of sale systems and how to use that to retain customers and how to help those customers feel and act like ambassadors. I'm Desiree Brown, Senior Manager of Digital Content and Education here at the Tory Burch Foundation. And I'm so excited to be here with Erika Tebbens. Erika is an incredible sales strategist. She works with service providers, consultants, and coaches to create custom growth plans that avoid complex systems, sleazy sales tactics, and battle burnout. So after Erika's presentation, we're going to have plenty of time for Q&A, so please be sure to ask those questions in the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to get to as many as we can. We'd love to reserve the chat function for all of that networking, all of that, yes, exactly, that's my situation, all that good stuff, but we do want to make sure that we have all of your questions in a single place. We encourage you to take notes. And as a quick reminder, today's session will be recorded, so please watch your inboxes for the replay link and any wonderful materials that Erika has to share with you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Erika. Get started.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Desiree. Thank you, Tory Burch Foundation. It is truly an honor to be back for a third time. I love the work you do. Thank you to everyone for being here. This is just such truly an incredible organization. All right, so let me just shrink my little face down there. Perfect. Okay, here we go. Let's dive in. I have a ton to cover. So yes, I'm Erika, and I work with change makers, leaders, and visionaries, and they are folks that want to turn their mission into a movement. So the thing that they do, they are changing the world or their industry or their community with it. And I truly believe that when each of us does the kind of good that only we can do, that is how we make real and lasting change in the world. So I actually wrote a book about it. So this is the first time in one of my presentations that I've mentioned it because it only came out in late 2022. So if you want to learn more, you can check it out right there. But the three topics that we are going to be covering today are sales system and data basics. So we're going to learn what a sales system is. We're going to learn how to find the sales data that's hiding in your business already. And then we're going to talk about simple ways to boost your initial sales. And we're going to talk about leveraging the data that will allow you to close more sales from new buyers both now and in the future, and how to increase lifetime customer value. So this is going to set you up for long-term success by focusing on that LCV, those LCV strategies, and building intentional sales systems. And you're going to hear me say lifetime customer value several times throughout this. So just so you all know what that is, it's really just the amount of money that an individual will spend with you on average over like their lifetime of doing business with you, right? So it's figuring out, how much one client or customer will spend with you in total. Okay, so first and foremost, what is a sales system? It is the places where potential buyers find you and the ways that you take them on a journey that hopefully ends in a sale. And believe it or not, you already have one in your business, even if you did not intentionally design it. So as long as you're making sales of some kind, you already have a sales system. It is also the pieces of tech or the processes they might encounter on the way to and through that initial sale and future sales. So it's anything that your clients, your potential clients, are going to be interacting with, interfacing with through your marketing and then through the sales process. And these are going to allow you to track metrics and data that are going to help you hit your sales goals. And the good news is, as I was telling the Tory Burch team before we started this, there are absolutely no like spreadsheets or anything complicated in this. I'm very much about simplifying and uncomplicating business. So if you're a little worried that this is going to be like super in-depth or stressful, you don't have to worry about it. So that's the good news. I'll just give you that little caveat right up front. So looking at the data is going to really help with long-term success. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard the saying, success leaves clues. I've heard it a bunch of times from a bunch of different people. But really, when you capture the behavior of your buyers, even a little, you can make better decisions driven by that data, right? So when you follow the clues of what has brought you success already, you can notice patterns in how your buyers engage with your brand, even without tech, even without looking deep, like into the numbers of your business right now. I bet you can tell me in the chat, what are like the top 1 or 2 ways that most of your buyers are finding you. You can just, share with us as I keep going, but I would love to know. So some of the ways that they might be finding you, there's a bunch, right? You might be doing some of these things very intentionally as part of your marketing, or they just might be happening, right? So like word of mouth or, referrals, as you might also call them, might just be happening sort of unintentionally, which is great. But like right now, I'm doing a collaboration or a partnership, right? So I'm doing a speaking engagement. So even if you didn't know me before, you obviously knew Tory Burch Foundation somehow, or you wouldn't be here, right? So now that you are here, you know me. And then going forward, you might keep interacting with me somehow, right? And you probably are interacting with folks in your business in some form or fashion with your, maybe it's your content platforms, right? So people find out about you and then they can follow you on social media, or maybe they are finding you through SEO blog posts and you can look at that data in like your Google metrics. Maybe you host a podcast and you can look at your podcast host, their data that they show you, or you're on YouTube or any, Pinterest, all of those, there's data. You can find data that is already built in. And then there's also newer services such as ManyChat, which is like a bot, when you, like a lot of times in Instagram, if somebody says like, comment the word guide and I'll send you the link in your DMs, right? That's typically a bot like ManyChat. You probably, a lot of you, if not all of you, have email marketing of some sort. And depending on the kind that you use or how robustly you've set it up, you can get a ton of data and see a lot of buyer behavior from there. Webinars like this one, right? Now, this isn't necessarily self-hosted, right? I'm not self-hosting it. So I'm limited a little bit of what data I can see, but I can always ask the team, how many people registered, how many people were on live. And then I can also see like how many people, go to click the link for my book at the end and opt in and download my free chapter, right? All of these things. And even with a call booking platform. So maybe you have the type of business where people book calls with you, like discovery calls. That is a way you can go back and you can track, like how long does it take before, when people join your email list till maybe they book a call. So I just want to see really quick what some people said. Networking, word of mouth, networking, relationships, partnerships. Yeah. So a lot of things, cold calls. Yeah. A lot of word of mouth, referrals, Instagram, word of mouth. Awesome. Thank you all. And then lastly, of course, there is your sales data, right? So these are the people who have already raised their hand, said yes, given you money. And so this is really great data. So now if you sell products, you probably have an e-commerce platform of some sort, and that is going to show you great data. Or if you have an invoicing system, like where you're sending out, contracts and invoices, even for there, like you can even go into there and go back, like work backwards and uncover some of this stuff. Or if you have a CRM, which stands for Customer Relationship Management, a lot of this is already built in and it starts to like it's integrated, right? So it's sort of auto populating. If anyone has a CRM that they're like already using, feel free, you can just say like yes in the chat, or I do. I would just love to know how many people already have some sort of CRM. And you can have one that you pay for. You can have one that is free that you just set up yourself. It can be really simple. It can be really robust. Everything in between, right? So there's a lot of different types and kinds and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I see a bunch of people in the comments. That's awesome. And from that, it's really going to track like if you are familiar with the terms like cold leads, warm leads, hot leads, it's going to track things like that. You can add people manually or automatically. It's going to track things like your sales and sales trends. And it's definitely a must if you are doing any sort of in-person networking to keep track of all those folks. Stick them in there. It's really, really fantastic. And some of them will actually allow you to integrate like all the marketing and everything that you're doing as well, all in one hub. So you can really see at a glance the like most or all of the data in your business and uh, a lot of like a really good snapshot of what is actually happening so you can hit your goals more easily. So this is going to help you discover tons and tons of things. One of the key things is at least an estimate of the length of your buying cycle, right? So what will like a lot of times we get really nervous and we aren't really sure about like it feels like oh my gosh it's taking so long or like I'm not making enough sales. But if you start to see those trends and patterns, you might actually realize that like the length of your buying cycle from somebody finding you or joining your list till the time that they buy, like it could be a year, it could be 18 months, right? And then if you know that, you can you can plan around that, right? Conversion rates, even with free resources, right? Average sales, lifetime customer value, best-selling offers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So tons and tons of stuff. Somebody asked in the comments how to use CRM for in-person networking. You just would manually go in. You can just make a new entry and put in that person's information. And then you can start to track them. It's very, very simple, really awesome. And it's totally okay if you haven't been doing this. Do not be stressed out if you have not been doing this already. The most important thing to do from here going forward is like spend some time this week thinking about the most common customer journeys in your business and just start looking at the data that you already have. Like just get curious about what you're already working with, right? And then jot down literally anywhere patterns that you begin to notice. Even if you don't have 100% exact numbers, just start jotting this stuff down. So as I've already touched on a little bit, data is simply showing you a pattern of your buyer's behavior. So if success leaves clues, we're going to use that data to make it easier for new buyers to raise their hand and say, yes, please. Right. So a lot of times, like, the word data can feel very like scary or intimidating, right? Really, all it's pointing to is just buyer behavior. It's just human behavior. It's just putting numbers behind it. So I have some great news for you. There's money hiding in your business right now, and you may actually be able to tap into some of that this week. So we're going to put some of this simple data to work to increase your sales. And you can actually start building out a sales system right now based on existing buying patterns. And this means greater ROI for your marketing effort and more consistent sales without creating more content all the time. So I'd love to know in the chat, just tell me, who would love to have more consistent sales without always having to create more content? You tell me in the chat while I get a sip of water. So a lot of times, yes, okay. I'm seeing a lot of me's, 100% yes. Okay. I'm not surprised. Ooh, somebody says yes and no. Cool, cool. Love that. I'm very curious. So a lot of times we feel as business owners, especially in this modern era of a cajillion social media apps and platforms and marketing channels and all sorts of stuff, that it always has to be top of mind to be creating more content. But what if you are doing that to the detriment of talking to the people who have already, like, they already know that you exist, they already like you, and maybe they just need to engage with you in a different way or need to know more about what it is that you actually offer so they can give you money for the first time, right? So they can be a first time buyer, right? So let's increase your initial sales. Here are some ways that you can do that. I am guessing that most, if not all of you, are not buying everything that you want the first time you see it, right? So, like, who has gotten that email from, your favorite boutique that's having a sale, or you see something on Instagram and you mean to go, you have items in your cart, you go to check out, and then you get distracted, you totally forget, and then the sale ends and you're super bummed or whatever, right? Like pretty much all of us, I think. So do not ever feel bad, especially if you're selling something and it's on a great deal and it's about to end, or your cart is open for maybe a group program and there's somebody that you've talked to at one point in time who expressed interest and they haven't booked a sales call or they haven't applied or enrolled or whatever. Like, you want to follow up, right? So create a system, manual or automated, that follows up with people who've shown interest. So this is where that CRM and your email marketing can help. So your CRM, most of them are going to be able to have a setup where with certain leads in there, like you can set it up so that for your leads, you could set up different like follow-up cadences. So it will just remind you, hey, this week follow up with these people, right? And then you will check back in and it's great. And or you can also use your email marketing. So here's a pro tip for you. When sending out email campaigns, you can create tags for your links. So you can use whatever naming convention that you want for those tags. But this way you can see who clicked but didn't buy, enroll, book a call, apply, etc. Now you know who to follow up with. And some email marketing systems are going to, like, depending on what you have, right? So some of them built in already are going to allow you to see when you have sent out an email that you had links in, you can actually go back and you can look at that data and it will show you who was actually, like, who had clicked those links, right? So it'll show you the contact and everything. And then you can actually notice, like, oh, is this a person who maybe you've had a conversation with them about it, or maybe they like keep checking on that, like keep clicking on that same link. Maybe you're in a launch and you keep talking about that offer and you notice in like multiple emails they keep clicking on that. That's a really great reason. Like, then they're probably interested. They keep looking at it. Should probably do some follow up, right? Or if you have an e-commerce platform that already has built-in like abandoned cart features, then make sure, have those set up, right? So that way, at least it's notifying people if they have, stuff in their cart and they get distracted and they leave. And good news, there's also a way to automate this. So with the link tagging, if you're like, I really don't want to go back in and look in every email, Erika, and see who is clicking on all the links and then go back and follow up, you don't have to. So this is partly why you would want to come up with some sort of naming convention, because then you can set up automated emails, scheduled emails that will do that following up for you. So if you spend a little bit of time up front to build out some sales automations, it is definitely going to increase the odds of you making sales, which is great. Plus, you'll be collecting new data too. So this means you could be, it could be the middle of the night. You could be sleeping. You could be out at the park with your kids. You could be watching Real Housewives and you could be making sales. And who would not want that, right? So, this is part of the reason why people are entrepreneurs is they like to have that freedom. So now there are all these cool tools and systems that we can actually put to work for us. So I mentioned ManyChat already. So that's just one example. You could set that up. So when you are putting out content, it is driving more people to like an opt-in that you might have. And then maybe people go to that opt-in and on your thank you page, there's a special offer, right? So then right there, they're seeing it and they can take advantage of it. And then maybe when they get into that, they get their download and then it puts them into a nurture sequence. So if they're new to you, then it's going to drip out over a period of time, different emails so that they can get to know you, they can know what you're all about, they can know what you sell, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes for different businesses, depending on what you offer, a quiz can be a really cool way to like nurture and sell to people when you're not there in this automated way, right? So, and this works for both product and service-based businesses. And there are software platforms that will help you set this all up. But that is really, really cool. And then when people are done, it gives them their custom answer. And you could even, again, follow up with emails, et cetera, et cetera. And for anyone who is doing sales calls, like you need to do a discovery call first. I highly recommend if you do not have a call booking system already, please, 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 please get one. In 2024, there's no need to be doing the email back and forth. And also, you will have like a much higher rate of people forgetting about the call and then not showing up and you missing out on the sale if you don't have those call reminders. So this is going to really make it easier for those potential clients to want to, book in and actually show up and then make that sale. So the key thing I want you to take away from this part, the even like better news about it's great news that there's money hiding in your business right now. But the even better news, I would say, is that as you are looking at this data going forward, you get to utilize it to inform your marketing, and to actually focus on your strengths and repeat what works. So you can do more of what is actually driving sales, especially when it's the stuff that you love, right? So you can really start to double down on things that you enjoy. So if something's not driving sales and you don't like it, now you can feel more confident about dropping it. So I would love to know, like, just so far already, because I said, I asked, where are people finding you, right? And then, talked a little bit about thinking like, what might your sales system be already, even if it's not intentional, right? Like how are people kind of, moving through already, and in your process. So are there anything that you're thinking about right now that you are realizing you're like, I am doing that every week or every other week or every month, right? And it is not actually like, it's not bringing you joy to do it, but you feel like you should do it because maybe somebody told you you should, or maybe like the industry you're in, it's just a very common thing to do for marketing. But you've been doing it for a while and you realize it's not actually bringing you sales. If you have anything that you're realizing, like as you're having any aha moments as we've been going through this, I would just love to know, because this is something that is really, really, really powerful, and will honestly change the game for you. Because a lot of times, what will happen for small business owners and entrepreneurs is that we are so afraid to let anything go, that because we're like, I don't know, like what if that's the thing that is making me money, or and I let it go, and then business dries up, right? And it feels terrifying to put anything down, even if we're exhausted, right? So if you start to look at this, if you start to audit the sales system that you already have, right? So what are the things that you're doing that are making people aware of you? What are the things that you're doing as you're like nurturing them and they're getting to know you and knowing what you're all about, knowing your offers, and then like how are they actually buying? If you realize that there's stuff in there that's like not actually driving sales, then you can be like, oh, I spend 5 hours a week on that. Like maybe it's like posting to a social media platform. I spend 5 hours a week on that. And it's not actually converting into sales, or it's like not, oh, Candace. Oh, hi, Candace. Candace is a past client of mine. Social media isn't driving sales, right? Yeah. So somebody else is saying print marketing hasn't worked, but online automation has. Ooh, yay. Online automation. I'm glad I was just talking about that. Perfect. Somebody's saying trying to sell online courses isn't working, right? So, what is really great about this is that you will now feel you can now make better decisions in your business. And you can also decide like maybe you haven't been doing it long enough and maybe you want to, keep going and try and see, right? I'll give an example from my own business. A few years ago, when I was finishing writing my book and getting ready to put it out, I used to have a podcast. So my Sell It Sister podcast, it still exists. There's over 150 episodes. You could go back and listen to them. Um, I'd done it for over 3 years. I loved it. And it was great. I had a lot of loyal listeners. People really enjoyed it, but I was like, I have to be smart about where I spend my time here, right? Because I can't really it's hard. I could really do both, but it would be hard. And I didn't want to be overworked, right? So I had to look and see like, will it hurt my bottom line if I let the podcast go and focus on the book? And when I did this same exact process, I realized like, I'm really proud of the podcast. People love it. It gives a ton of value. It's awesome, but it's not a huge sales driver. So then I could just confidently be like, hey, I'm still leaving it up for everyone, but like I'm not going to be putting out new episodes. I'm going to focus on my book instead. So again, you do not have to do all of this at once. Please do not be overwhelmed. A lot will depend on your type and stage of business, what you already have in place, your capacity, your goals, all of that. Just start small and then build on it. But I would highly recommend that you consider following up with warm leads ASAP because they're warm leads. They're the most likely to buy. So like do that sometime this week, at least like 3 or 5 of them. It will be great. At the very least, it's good practice. So lastly, when you design your sales system to include a plan for lifetime customer value, you're going to see big long-term results. And I'm going to prove it to you with some amazing stats. So I actually shared these in last year's presentation, but they're worth sharing again because they are incredible. So repeat customers have a 60 to 70% chance of buying versus 13% for a new one. So good news, when you have done the work to get those first time buyers, right? So when you get those initial sales, you've done the heavy lifting. There is a higher likelihood that they will come back. So that's great. They will also refer 50% more people than one time buyers, and they will spend 300% more. So this is amazing, right? So some things to think about when you're thinking about your sales system all the way through from point of people being aware of you all the way through to they said yes, they gave you money, right? Now you want to think about the buyer experience. So if you want to do a deeper dive into this, definitely check out my presentation last year on raving fans. But yeah, go through, audit it, have a friend audit it, talk to your people who are already raving fans and make sure that it's really great. Also, a key thing is to think about suggesting complementary products or services. Now, this is definitely not just like an empty upsell, like a do you want fries with that kind of a thing. This is about you being the expert in what you do, right? So you know about your offers better than anyone, right? So if you are having a conversation with somebody or you look in your data and you know that like most people who get this also get this or buy it within 3 months or whatever, right? Use your experience and data to make a suggestion about something else that is like no strings attached. So think about if you're buying like a pair of jeans online and then it has those like outfit combo examples at the bottom. You're not angry that they're giving you examples of other products you can pair them with. You're just like, okay, they're there, right? If you don't need those other items or you don't like them, you'll just ignore them and continue to check out. Or you might be like, that is a very cute blazer. I'm so glad they showed that to me. And I will, I'm going to add it to the cart, right? And again, like sometimes this can be automated, right? In that's a case like an e-commerce example where they've automated that, right? They have preset that up. But I will use a real world example from my business. So this right here, my beautiful branding, one of my past clients did a rebrand for me a few years ago. She knows I do a lot of teaching. So she recommended, hey, when I'm done with all of your brand assets, would you like me to add in slide deck templates, right? So it's extra that I paid her, but it was totally worth it, right? So it's fantastic. This is going to up my lifetime customer value with her. I now, as a customer, have spent more money with her, right? And I was really happy, and I didn't know that that was something I could have, right? Until she suggested it. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Follow up. If you like take away anything from me today, remember to follow up with people. Please, please, please. Like even if you like divvy up your content creation time, take a few hours away from creating content to follow up with people who've already expressed interest or already bought, it will change the game for you. So again, create a system that is manual or automated that's going to follow up with people. Get to make sure they're happy, encourage that feedback, keep them updated about, anything new that you've got going on, or even just check in with them even when you're not selling. Again, this will depend, like depending on the type of business you have and what you sell, you might not do all of these things exactly, right? But if you're thinking right now, like especially if you have like a high touch service and you had a dream client that you worked with a year or 2 years ago, you probably have different things in your business now, or you could create something bespoke for them. Like check back in. Maybe there's something that you could check in, tell them what's new with you, and then maybe they'll want what you have, or maybe they have a referral for you. And speaking of referrals, so even though we do have those bajillion platforms, marketing platforms, all of that stuff, it is really important to remember that word of mouth is still the strongest sales driver. And that's because word of mouth relies on human trust. So trust is the last thing that people need before they spend money. So if somebody trusts you and their friend trusts them, then you get to borrow that trust, right? Through word of mouth. That's why it's so powerful. So think about the folks who are already sharing. Who are your repeat clients? And again, depending on the type of business you have and how many sales like you're running through your business on the regular, you may either just be able to know off the top of your head who those people are, or you may need to dig into your data, into your systems to figure that out. But then once you do, think about ways to make it easy for those people to share. Like maybe come up with some resources or links or whatever. And you can also say thanks with a gift or a private promo. So, like if you sell products, maybe you make a special code and you give it to those folks and you say, for this, weekend only, you and your friends and family can shop with this special code as a thank you, right? And if you want to, you can get very formalized and create an affiliate or referral program where people maybe have like a unique URL, and that becomes its own data opportunity. And it's all a data opportunity, but in that case, it's just a more like systematized data opportunity. But I always like to ask, like, where'd you hear about me if it's somebody that I didn't meet personally? So as we come to a close here, the last couple of things I want to leave you with is that it's a really great idea to map out your customer's path. Just take some time, right? Because I said at the beginning that as long as you're making sales, you have a sales system. It just might be unintentional, right? But when you're intentional about it from the start, it's going to inform the rest of your setup and it's going to give you clarity when it comes to driving revenue in your business. So take some time and just think about like, hey, where are those places that you want to be showing up so that people can learn about you? And then where are you going to send them next? And like, what do you want to offer? And like, when do you want to offer it? And then what does the delivery look like? And how will you be following up? And at what point do you make another offer? Is it at the point of sale? Is it, a month later, 3 months later? Is it both? Just think through it. And then you're going to want to do this regularly, like again and again, right? So this is not like a fully set it and forget it forever because businesses are living, breathing things, right? I said at the very beginning that data is just putting numbers behind human behavior, right? And while there are general commonalities in human behavior, there are also things that ebb and flow over time, right? And things change depending on what industry you're in, depending on what you sell, all sorts of stuff, right? So it's a really good idea to review this data and see if something needs to be adjusted, right? So if you have a CRM and you're like, oh, I know that it used to be that like my sales cycle was 6 to 8 months and now it's like 10 to 12. Well, now you know, and you can adjust and you won't necessarily be freaking out. I mean, you might not love that, but at least you'll be aware, right? And so you'll be able to plan for it, right? So if you're not sure how often to do this, because again, it could depend on what you do, uh, you know, your industry, type of business, all sorts of things, right? This might be something that you want to do every week or every couple weeks. But if you're not sure, I recommend 90 days, right? 90 days gives something enough time to collect data, but you're also not stuck in it for so long. Like it gives you a chance to stop and then pivot, right? So just go back and look through trends. How are people finding you? Lead time before they buy, what they purchase first, how they continue to engage, all of that stuff. And it's totally fine if you cannot get all of the data 100%. You just get what you can get, right? It's still going to help you make better decisions, even if it's not 100% certain. And I guarantee you, even like huge like tech companies and stuff, they can't even always get 100% certain data. So don't feel bad. So as we come to the end, I just want to leave you with start building and optimizing one pathway first. It's really important so that you do not overwhelm yourself and so that you're not like, I got to throw everything out in my business and start over, and, break something that is actually working. To look back through, what you wrote out of like, oh, hey, what is actually the sales system that is working? Maybe not working as great as you would like, but what is actually working? And then map that out. And then figure out how you can optimize that, right? Figure out maybe how you can get more people into that or how you can, add in some things or subtract some things, right? And give something enough time to work and gather data before ditching it. I know I just mentioned 90 days, but if you're like, ooh, I want to try something new, I want to create like a new sales system to try out or add this new thing in, just give it a little time to marinate. And also, don't try to be everywhere or do everything all at once. You will hate life. Just use that data to make better decisions versus burning out, right? I promise, like, even just these little small gradual tweaks are going to make such a huge difference in your business. And as we wrap up, there are some other places that you can find me. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you want to check out my book, you can download the first chapter for free at erikatebbens.com/book. And you can just go to my website. You can learn more. You can check out old episodes of my podcast. I got blog posts. I got everything on there. So there you go. Tons and tons and tons of resources. And I'll stop sharing so we can do Q&A.
Hey, thank you, Erika.
Yeah.
Lots of good information here. I'm going to dive right into some of the questions that came in. A few people have asked about choosing the right CRM and setting it up if they're not super tech savvy. So if you have any recommendations for something that's easy to use and not super expensive for small businesses, what would they be?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I would say, first things first, there are a lot of them out there that are really intended for like big companies that have whole sales teams that are actually going out and doing sales calls, right? So probably the most well known is Salesforce. Like Matthew McConaughey was in their, I think it was Super Bowl ad last year or the year before, right? Probably nobody here needs that. That's like for big companies with whole sales teams. So I would say, look for ones that are really targeted to individuals, especially, or like very small businesses. And just know if some are being marketed to like small businesses, a lot of times that is like the technical definition of small business, which is still like, I think, what is it, like 1 to 3 million or something like that annually, or maybe more, 3 to 5 million. So really look for ones that are for like entrepreneurs or independents. So I know Honeybook is one. I think HubSpot has like a low tier one. There is also what is Moxie is another one. Yeah, some other people, I know I saw some people dropping other ones in the chat. But you can also set them up like using Notion, or Trello or Airtable. There are those as well. And I would say that if you feel intimidated by the setup, you can either find a professional who does that kind of work. So they might be like a tech VA or an online business manager, somebody that does systems and ops, and they can help you get that set up for you. Or I do know like that Honeybook works with independents that are registered. They're called Honeybook professionals. So they're like certified professionals that will do, you can hire them and they'll actually do your whole setup for you. And I'm
Okay.
not paid by any of those, but like I have no affiliate links or like anything. Just the those are just like some options. Just don't buy one that's like way more than you need.
Thank you for that. We respect your opinion. And of course, I think that that's something that is so great to stress. Don't spend more money than you reasonably can on your CRM. Okay, so today we talked a lot about email. What tips do you have for someone who really wants to build that list, especially if they're pre-launch or if they really have just started out?
Oh, yeah. I love this question. My best tips are getting in front of other people in whatever way is most natural for you, right? So if that is, and again, depending on the type of thing you do, whether it's like a service or a product or whatever, but I would say think about partnerships, right? So if that is like you do a like a pop-up with somebody, like if it's products and you can do a pop-up or like bring a complementary product into somebody else's shop one day. Like a friend of mine has a charcuterie business, so she would go into this wine boutique in the town where I used to live occasionally on like First Friday. So the people walking in could, get their wine samples and also check out her business and then know that she exists, right? Get on her mailing list. And if you're a service-based business, you can do things like this where you partner with other, people or organizations or, meetups, networking events, other things that might be local to you or virtual, where you serve the same types of audiences, but you can bring knowledge about what you do that helps those people. And then you can either like just have a sign up for your email or like a QR code, or you can have a resource so that, people get a free download or whatever when they give their email.
Those are such smart ideas. And then on the subject of email signups, we had someone who asked a question that's sort of on the other end of the spectrum. What advice do you have for someone who feels like they have the email list, that they've done a ton of marketing, but all they're getting are more subscribers and not necessarily sales?
Okay. So I would say a few things. One, how often are you actually emailing? When you do, are you making it very clear what you actually sell? Or are you like just kind of giving updates and then like burying the lead, as they say, like almost feeling like guilty for being in the inbox, like,
Or
sorry, and if you want this thing, it's, down here, whatever. Um, and the other thing could be, so you might need to increase your frequency. You might need to make it crystal clear what you have on offer. Um, and or it could be that you have like maybe you have collected people in in a way that has brought non-ideal clients onto your list. So I'll give an example. So like there's a thing that has become more popular in the last few years, which are bundles, like where different online entrepreneurs bundle their like free resources together. And then when people participate, they like kind of get added to everybody's list. They get all the resources. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that like all the people who opt in are a best fit for all those businesses, right? So you might get a lot of people on your email list. Or like if you're in like an online summit or something, you might get a lot of people on your email list, but they might not actually all be ideal clients. So that's something to consider as well.
yes. So like you said, get yourself in front of people, but the people that are that matter, that are going to be those raving fans.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. We had another question that's maybe taking a different tack, but what advice do you have for setting reasonable sales goals? The person that asked this question says that they always write increased sales in their quarterly goals, but have no real way to know if they've increased sales enough.
Okay. Oh, I like this one. Okay, so I'm gonna like them all, but this is like I feel like this is super common because it can be really vague, right? Like,
Right.
what do you want to increase them by? I would say if it helps, like some people are just motivated by hitting a certain number, and that's a-okay. And some people are interested in hitting like a number for a specific reason, right? So like maybe you want to take a vacation or maybe you want to buy something specific or whatever that feels very motivating. So first just know what motivates you, right?
Sure.
Um and then think about like what that would be. So let's say you have, I don't know, 5,000 a month in sales right now. And you're like, okay, if I got to 8,000, obviously some of that's got to go to tax and whatever, whatever. But like of the balance, like of that difference there, like what would I do with that? Actually, think about like what would I do with that? And does that amount feel exciting? So maybe 1,000 goes to tax and have an extra 2,000. Like what would I want to do with that? Would I want to hire help or would I want to put it into savings or whatever? And then you might feel like, oh, I actually like that doesn't actually feel like enough because I want to hire help and I want to put it into savings and I want to save up for like a really nice vacation. So then you're like, maybe I need to bump it to like 9,000 or something, right? Or you could do like good, better, best, right? You could be like 7,500, 8,500, 9,500, right? Trust that like you know yourself best and then just see from there and then aim for that goal and then just track from there. And you can also look at like your offers and again, look in your data, like what offers do you have? How much do they cost? Who is, what is actually selling? Like how much would you need to sell of different offer combinations to hit that goal in any given month, right? Kind of mapping that out will give you a better idea. Then you could think like my example of reaching back out to past clients, you might think like, oh, if I reached out to like so and so and did a custom offer for them for, you know, $3,500, like if I quoted that, right, and they said yes, I would hit that goal this month, no problem.
That is great. All great advice. I love that you gave us a couple different ways to look at it. Um, we also had a question about following up, which I know that you said is super important. People are also a little bit worried on the other side about following up too much. And so, is there a rule of thumb for that?
So I would say it's good to this is one of those things where I think it's good to like feel it out, right? So that there's not like a set example of like, I know that the data changes on like how many times somebody has to be exposed to something before they purchase it, right? Like that kind of always changes. I would say think about like, think about for yourself and think about when you've been interested in something and it's been on your to-do list, but it's not maybe a huge priority and you just keep forgetting to email the person or like it just keeps slipping down your to-do list, right? So I always try to think of it first as like people are busy. I'm just going to reach back out, right? So initially I think, maybe a week or 2 weeks, something like that. Um, and then depending on what the response is, then I might take different paths, right? So somebody might say like, this is, like this is great, but I can't do it until the fall or, then just move it in your CRM or whatever system you're using to be like follow up in the fall. Um, or if you have messaged them maybe like 3 times and they, you know, never respond at all, then you might be like, okay, it's a cold lead. Or like I'm gonna respond, like I'm gonna revisit this in 6 months, right? Because a lot could happen in your business in 6 months. You might not need the business, you might have pivoted, they might not even be like an ideal client anymore, things like that. Or in 6 months, you might be like, I still don't want to reach back out. Let me just move this another 6 months down the road and see how I feel about it then. So it's when I say follow up, I don't mean like you have to be constantly reaching back out, but it's like it's a good reminder that especially if somebody is like engaging, like if somebody's watching all of your Instagram stories and they're like, clicking links, if they're doing things that show that they express interest, unless they're just like creepily checking you out or something, like they probably have maybe some questions, and maybe they're just afraid to reach out. And I don't know, people make up all sorts of stories in their minds of like they're too busy or they wouldn't want to talk to me or they wouldn't want to answer my questions, right? I don't know. We're humans are funny. Like, so yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we are about to wrap up, but I did want to ask before we leave, what your thoughts were on some of the most important customer metrics to keep track of.
So the things that I always like to track are like my marketing, like where I'm marketing and where I'm spending my time and how that is leading to actual sales, right?
Mhm.
Because my clients have heard me say this before, that marketing is the free work we do in hopes that we get paid work that like pays us back,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, like if you're working for a company and they're paying you to do the marketing, like you're getting that paycheck whether that company gets an ROI or not, right? But when it's you in your own business, you are doing that work for free in hopes that it pays off, right? So I always like to look at that initial like, where am I showing up? Where am I getting in front of new people? Where am I creating content? How am I creating content? What is actually resonating? What is like moving people to my email list? What is getting them to engage, getting them to book calls, getting them to buy? Like checking that at, every 90 days and then whittling away things that are not working and again doing more of what actually is working, because then you will be using your unpaid time more wisely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Erica, again, for sharing your expertise with our community and leaving us on this really wonderful and insightful note.